Welcome to the Daily Betslip. We need a soundboard, I think, moving forward. And if we did have a soundboard, I'd have a little celebration button because Donnavan, 4-0 on yesterday's show, a clean sweep of the board. You're in your other cousin's room now. I was hoping you were going to be back in the same cousin's room so you could have the same luck. But that's okay. We'll see if the luck travels over to this cousin's room as well. 4-0 yesterday. Can you repeat today? We will find out because NFL is back, my friends. Not regular season, but it is the Hall of Fame game tonight. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some Major League Baseball. Donnavan, you, I believe, have another WNBA pick. I have a CFL pick. And we're going to rank the top defenses in the NFL. We're going to stick to top 3 this time around. So we got, once again, a jam-packed show. If you're watching on Twitter, be sure to head over to YouTube so you can live comment on the show. If we don't get to your pick, if you tweeted at me earlier your pick and we don't get to it, feel free to chime in the chat and we can talk about it then. But let's start with the bad beat of the night. Donnavan, I'm going to get you to take over for this one because it was a WNBA bad beat, but for you, it was a good beat. So why don't you talk about it?
Yeah, I was actually. It's crazy how this stuff has played out with you and I both getting back-to-back, I guess, good beats.
Yep.
But I was on the Dream -9 yesterday. This is one of the 4 bets that I hit in my 4-0 day yesterday. But so the Dream -9, they were up by 10 with about 20 seconds left. They're just trying to get one more possession out of the way to cover. And Indiana had the ball. They got they had a screen and roll. Melissa Smith drove to the basket, had a layup to cut the game to 8, which would have killed my bet. She misses the layup. She misses the layup. Atlanta gets the rebound. Game ends, and we win the -9 bet. So it's very good. It's very fun.
Just like that, a good beat for you. For me, yes, like 2 days ago, yesterday's show, we talked about it. Now a good beat for you. You went 4-0. All the momentum is in our favor. It's all in your favor. It's the perfect time for us to get hot because we are getting ready for the NFL season. We are going to talk about tonight's Hall of Fame game at the end of the show. It is our game of the night tonight, so we will have picks for that. But before, we got to give out our best bets for some other games tonight, but we're going to start with community picks as always. A little bit of a wide range of picks we have for tonight. So why don't we bring up the first community pick? Let's just dive into things here. This is from Quincy at 513 ball player. He says, White Sox money line, excellent against lefties, and the Rangers pitcher is making his MLB debut. That is a game that I actually have a bet on as well. The White Sox, my issue with it, I'm going a little bit of a different direction. I'll get to my pick here in a little bit. My issue with it, though, is if you look at season-long numbers, yes, the White Sox are good against lefties, but we're kind of deep into the season now. You have to look at more recent sample sizes and dating back to July 1st, so a little bit over a month now. White Sox actually 24th in OPS against lefties. So we'll see what's going to hold true tonight. Is it going to be the season-long sample size, or is it going to be the past month or so? We will see. Like I said, I do have a pick for that game that I'll get to in a little bit. Donnavan, any thoughts? Are you going to side with the money on White Sox money line?
Yeah, I think if you can take advantage, right? If you're going to hop on somebody's debut, in their major league debut, it's okay to fade them. And if you want to add that on top of the fact that Chicago has been fairly decent across the year, even though that you just said that in the last 2 months they've kind of struggled, but the year-long stats would say something else. I'm okay with it. I don't hate it.
You would think the obvious thing to do would be to fade a pitcher making his MLB debut, but
stuff happens.
Maybe this is a spot for a hashtag underreact guy. Maybe I'm going to underreact to that MLB debut a little bit, but I'll give my pick on that in a little bit. Let's bring up the second pick for tonight, which I believe is a play on the Hall of Fame game. It is Jaguars money line, going with the underdog, Jaguars +20. This is from the Pups at the Pups 15. Says Peterson is in. Doug Peterson, the new head coach for the Jaguars, was 4-0 in the preseason, his first year in Philadelphia. McDaniels, the new head coach for the Raiders, was 0-2 in his week 1 preseason games in 09 and 10. One coach will try to win, the other will be indifferent.
Okay. Okay. I mean, we both have picks on this game, obviously, because it's the game of the night later in the show. So I don't want to say too much. I will say on the Jags, though, and I've said it kind of all season long. Listen, I think the Jazz can be kind of good this year, and I think that they might be able to end up at second in the AFC South potentially, maybe even win the AFC South if this Matt Ryan experiment goes south. So if you're trying to jump on the Jaguars train early, I don't hate it. And to Doug Peterson, he brought my team a Super Bowl, so I
That's
like this.
true.
This is not okay.
You do have a
This is
soft
okay.
spot for Doug Peterson. Obviously, it's worth noting Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne will not be in the lineup for the Jaguars tonight. I don't believe the Raiders have said who they are or aren't going to play tonight, so we'll have to keep an eye out for that. But yeah, we will get to our picks when we talk about game of the night at the end of the show. But I will say, if you're going to, I mean, we can't really study, you can't really handicap preseason games, especially a Hall of Fame game, because we don't know how long they're going to play each player. Really, the only thing you can look at is past preseason coaching ATS records. So that's what he did. He looked at Doug Peterson, Josh McDaniels' record in the preseason. That's good enough for me. Shout out John Harbaugh, who is like 80% against the spread in preseason since he started coaching the Ravens. So once the actual preseason kicks in, the Ravens are basically an auto bet. But that is a good point. You got to look at those betting on the preseason. Let's get into the third pick. Community pick of the night. Nick Ellsworth at Nick Els 10. Blue Jays money line large. Manoah rebound game after giving up 4 to the Tigers last time out. Yes, that is my Toronto Blue Jays taking on the Minnesota Twins. It is Alek Manoah going up against Sonny Gray. Manoah did stumble a little bit in his last time out. That is a good point because he hasn't had 2 back-to-back bad starts all season. Every time that he's had a bad start, he has seemed to rebound in a big way. So, I mean, if someone wants brownie points for me, a good way to do it is to enter in a community pick of the Blue Jays because I'm not going to argue against it. I'm going to be on your side every single time. So I like it quite a bit. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I have a pick in this game a little bit later. I feel like me and the community, we've been, at least for today and yesterday, we've been kind of similar in terms of like where our attention is going to and what
Yep.
games we really like. So I'll tackle this one a little bit later.
And you and the community were both on the Dodgers last night. I believe they won 3-0. So you hit run
Yes,
line,
sir.
community hit money line on that as well. I believe the poll is still active, by the way, for the Hall of Fame game tonight. So be sure to go vote in that if you haven't already. Let's bring up the final community pick. Devin Peele at Devin Peele, blindly betting the Hall of Fame game, the over in the Hall of Fame game, because football's back and I need to be a DGen. Donnavan, are you pro betting on the Hall of Fame game or anti betting on the Hall of Fame game?
Uh, I'm pro just simply because of the fact it's like Groundhog Day for NFL fans, where like you can finally see like the other side of the tunnel
Right.
and football's back. So if you want to bet on the Hall of Fame game and then maybe take the preseason off, okay, like I can understand that and you're just doing it for vibes. But if you're doing your road to 272 with the preseason, yeah, that's real degenerate right there.
Daisy did not like me picking her up. She scratched me in my stomach, but that's okay. I will survive. The show goes on. But yeah, I feel the same way. Is it a smart bet? No. Should you probably bet less than you normally do? Yes. But it's like a little fun way to celebrate football being back in a sense, even though it's just preseason. As the loudest alarm I've ever heard drives by my apartment window. I don't know if that, I assume that picked up on the mic. Don't know what that alarm is. It's terrifying. All right, let's get into our best bets. We have 2 MLB each. And then we're going in a little different direction for each of our last picks. I got one in the CFL, the Canadian Football League. And you are, of course, looking at the WNBA. So, Donnavan, why don't you start us off? We'll just alternate picks here. You go ahead with your first MLB bet of the night.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go back to that Toronto Minnesota game, and I actually like the Blue Jays money line in this one, and part of the reason is because I do not like Sonny Gray tonight. Sonny Gray, his strikeout prop is at 4.5. I'm going to take the under fairly easily. He's hit the under in 6 of his last 10 starts. The Blue Jays, they're one of the best offenses in the league. They're one of the hardest teams to strike out. They only strike out 20.6% of the time. That's 6th best in the majors. And also, Sonny Gray, he's not that good at home. He hasn't been able to take really good advantage of home field. He hasn't been able to capitalize on home field advantage. His ERA goes up 1.16 points at home rather than on the road. So, yeah, I'm going to fade Sonny Gray tonight and take the under here.
All right, I like it. I like that play as well. I believe we both wrote that up in the BetSided best MLB prop bets of the day. So I'm also on that play. My first MLB bet of the day, though, is an underdog alert. Sound the alarms. I got a big underdog tonight. It's a risky one, but I am going to take the Guardians plus 160 against the Astros. You're probably looking at this game. You're probably seeing Justin Verlander starting for the Astros. You're probably seeing his 1.81 ERA, and you're probably racing to bet on Justin Verlander in the Astros, but I'm here to tell you, not so fast, my friends. Fun fact about Justin Verlander is that the month of August has always been his worst month. He has a career ERA in August of 3.65. I don't know if it's just the grind of the season that kind of gets to him in August. I don't know if he's just kind of already mentally preparing for the playoffs in these spots, but by a significant margin, he takes a step back in August. And if you're going to bet on the Guardians, do it when they face a right-handed pitcher, because they are 9th in OPS against righties, all the way down at 29th against lefties. So, of course, Verlander is a righty, so that should help this bet out a little bit. I think it's worth a shot as an underdog. Give me the Guardians plus 160 tonight.
I like that. I like that a lot. So much so. Let's keep fading Justin Verlander, because that's where I'm taking Justin Verlander under 19.5 total outs recorded. I'm going back to the total outs recorded. I think that this is going to be kind of a light day for Verlander. Like you said, his history in August is not the best, and on top of that, he's 2-3 in terms of hitting this line in his last 5 games, but he's coming off of a near 8-inning performance. His last start was 7 2/3. I think that Houston is gonna, they understand that there's only about 2 months left until the playoffs. They're gonna start reeling him in. I think that this is an opportunity for them to kind of manage the situation, give Justin a little bit of rest, and so end his night a little bit early. So I will take the under here on Justin Verlander.
Bold move by both of us today. We are both fading Justin Verlander. This certainly has a chance to blow up in our face. But hey, favor fortunes the bold. I'm going to take a look at an under tonight as well. I hit an under last night. What was it? Marlins Reds, I think I hit the under last night. Tonight we are going with the White Sox and the Rangers under 8.5. This is, I brought up this earlier, the guy who gets sent in the community pick is taking the White Sox because the Rangers are going with Cole Reagans. I assume that's how you pronounce his name. He is making his Major League Baseball debut. But whereas the guy who gave the community pick, I apologize, I forget his name, is back in the White Sox because they've been so good against lefties this year. And as I mentioned, yes, for the whole season, they're 4th in OPS against lefties, but since July 1st, they're 24th. So they've actually taken a significant step back in that a little bit over a month. And the Rangers have suffered in a similar vein against righties, 17th in OPS against right-handed pitchers dating back to July 1st. And now they face Johnny Cueto, who has been quietly having a fantastic season with an ERA of 2.86. So I will be backing the under 8.5. I think it's probably half a run, maybe a full run too high, I think, here. Give me under 8.5 between the White Sox and the Rangers.
Okay, I like it. I like it a lot. I want to go to my last pick of the day. So I'm going to get into my WNBA pick. I'm taking the Las Vegas Aces minus 7.5 against the Wings. I actually got this line and I took it at minus 8.5. It's actually gone down, and so I like this number even more than what I got earlier in the day. And that's because the Aces they were stumbling a little bit around the All-Star break, and afterwards, I guess that break was exactly what they needed because they've turned up the heat since then. 5 of their last 6 wins have been by double digits. They've been able to win. They've been able to cover, and they're only 15-16 against the spread on the season. But as of late, they have been starting to cover in Dallas. Dallas has been inconsistent all year long, and that's really why that's really the reason why they are not, in the playoff race comfortably, while they're still fighting for a playoff spot. They're coming off of a really big performance against the Chicago Sky. I don't think that they're going to be able to hold up against the Sky and the Aces, the two best teams in the WNBA, back to back. So give me the Aces and that red hot offense of theirs to cover at 7.5.
Donnavan Smoot in his pursuit of doing a 4-0 sweep for the second straight day, taking the Aces minus 7.5 for a little WNBA action tonight. I am looking to the CFL. CFL getting back in action tonight. The Canadian Football League kind of turned a little bit of a corner recently. I'm doing better recently with my CFL picks than I did at the start of the season. So let's keep that going tonight. It is the Winnipeg Blue Bombers against the Montreal Alouettes. And I'm going to take the Alouettes plus 5.5 here. The Blue Bombers are undefeated, the final undefeated team left in the CFL at 8-0. I think their undefeated record is actually kind of fraudulent. You don't really need to look too far. Just look at offensive yards per play. Alouettes rank third in the CFL in yards per play at 5.3. The undefeated Blue Bombers rank sixth out of 9 teams in the CFL in offensive yards per play at 4.9. So I think we're going to see some regression here from an 8-0 team. Also, they get the majority of their yards through the air. The Blue Bombers do 9.0 yards per pass attempt. Now they take on an Alouettes team who is second in pass defense, giving up only 7.6 yards per pass attempt. And the opposite true when it comes to the run game. The Alouettes, they can find success in the ground, 5.6 yards per carry, and the Blue Bombers are giving up 5.1 yards per carry. So I will take the 5.5 points tonight with the Alouettes. Go Montreal.
Listen, I like that. I'm always down for some CFL action. Even though that I may not watch, I'm always down for it.
Of course. To be honest, it's going to be a better game than the NFL preseason. Let's be honest. Watch the first quarter of the Hall of Fame game and then switch over to CFL.
I like that.
All right, let's bring up our recap graphic. Of course, we have one more pick on the game of the night, the preseason game. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But these are our top 3 picks each so far. I'm going with the Guardians. Underdog alert, plus 160 against the Astros. The under 8.5 between the White Sox and the Rangers. And the Les Alouettes de Montreal at plus 5.5 against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Donnavan, you're going under 4.5 strikeouts for Sonny Gray, under 19.5 total outs recorded for Justin Verlander, and Aces minus 7.5, and some WNBA action against the Wings. We're moving right along here. Let's get into the segment of the day, which is going to be NFL themed because the NFL preseason starts tonight. So far on the show, I know Peter was here for a couple. You were here for at least one, but I've been involved in all of them. We've ranked the top 5 quarterbacks. We ranked the top 5 receivers. And I think it was me and you ranked the top 5 running backs. Yes, because we got into that argument about Derrick Henry. Yeah. Now we are going to rank the top 3 defenses in the NFL. I don't think anyone wanted to hear us rank our top 5 defensive linemen, our top 5 linebackers, our top 10 safeties, our top 10 cornerbacks. So we're just going to do all defense all in one. Then maybe next week we can do top 10 or top 5 kickers. Okay. That'll be fun.
Let's do it.
The top 5 long snappers in the NFL.
Top 5 punters?
Top 5 punters. Okay. All right. Let's do top 3 defense. Why don't you give me your list first?
Yeah. So, all right. So at number 3, I'm going to go with the New Orleans Saints. And I'm just gonna rattle them off and then give my reasoning because they all kind of are the same thing. So I have the Saints at number 3. I have the Los Angeles Rams at number 2. And then I have the Buffalo Bills at number 1. And so my reasoning for the Saints is that the Saints have consistently been a great defense for, I guess, the last 3-4 years. And you have Marshawn Lattimore in the secondary. You have just a lot of pieces there that are able to create havoc. They were third in DVOA, which is basically adjusted percentages like for the situation. It's a way to kind of like level the playing field across the league and down in distance and all that kind of thing. And the Saints are there at 3. The Rams are at 5 and the Bills are at 1. All 3 of these teams are top 5 in DVOA. So that's why I have the Saints there. I also think that the division in terms of Carolina and Atlanta, potentially even the Bucks. I like the Saints matchup against all three of those teams. I think that they'll be able to maybe inflate their stats within the NFC South. So there's New Orleans. When we get to the Rams, Los Angeles has the best. They have the best defensive player maybe ever in Aaron Donald on the line. They replaced Von Miller with an All-Pro mind in Bobby Wagner at linebacker, and then they have the best corner in the league at Jalen Ramsey. So at every single level, you have something great to point to, and so that's why I like the Rams. And then the Bills. The Bills have the best secondary in the league. They have, even though that Jordan Poyer has an elbow injury, he's expected to be ready to go by week 1. They have the best safety duo in the league. They have Tre'Davious White, who's a top 5 corner, and their D line is fantastic. They can do it at all 3 levels. So I think that those are my top 3 going into this year. And also with the Bills, same thing with the Saints. They're in a division where they will be able to inflate their stats a little bit, playing against the Jets, playing against Tua and the Dolphins. They're gonna have I'm not as high. I think that Tua has issues. I don't think that's it's not ridiculous to say that. And so, but yeah, so I think the Bills will have opportunities this year. So
I'll give my top 3. We agree on 2 of them. The team that you mentioned that's not in my top 3 is the Saints, mainly because as a Falcons fan, you will never see me rank the Aints in a top 3 anything. I just physically can't. I'll throw up on camera, and nobody wants to see that. But one thing I will say about the Saints that I do like about their defense, and this pains me to say because I don't like anything about that bum of a franchise, but the Saints did rank first in red zone defense last year, which is absolutely massive. That can obviously help a team. If teams aren't scoring touchdowns, they're only scoring field goals, that's huge. So I will tip my cap to the Saints for that, but I do not think they belong in the top 3. I'll now give out my top 3 defenses in the National Football League. I'm going to put the Rams at number 3. You had them at number 2. I'm going to put them at number 3. They did lose Von Miller, which could be concerning, but I believe they added Bobby Wagner, which is going to be absolutely huge. And like you mentioned, they have the best defensive player in the NFL right now, and Aaron Donald, arguably the best defensive player of all time. Some people would say that. So I got the Rams at number 3. Number 2, I have a team that you did mention, and that's the San Francisco 49ers. 4th in opponent yards per play last season, 5th in opponent points per game. But what a lot of people kind of don't give them enough credit for is their pass rush, 3rd in sack percentage last year. Obviously, with Nick Bosa on that defensive line, that is absolutely huge. So I think the 49ers are the 2nd best defense this year. And then we got the same number 1. You got to go Buffalo Bills. Last season, they ranked 1st in opponent yards per play, 1st in opponent points per game, 1st in opponent yards per pass attempt. And my favorite defensive stat, 1st in 3rd down defense. Now, some people I've listened to some people say that that's because the Bills had one of the easier schedules in the NFL last year. And while that's a fair point, it's not like the Bills were like 1st in this, 2nd in this, 6th in this, 8th in this. Sure, they had a slightly easier schedule, but they were 1st in these stats, and it wasn't even close. 1st by a wide margin. Even just in opponent yards per pass attempt, they allowed half a yard fewer per throw than the next best team. Like, those are some insane numbers, even if you have a little bit of an easier schedule compared to some of the other top teams. So I think you have to put the Bills in there at number 1.
Yeah, I like it. And I think one of the things whenever you're looking at like defenses and from year to year, even though that the Bills were top 3, they had the 3rd most takeaways in the league. They still were not a defense that was basically carried by the takeaways, right? If you look at a team like the Dallas Cowboys, they are a team where takeaways is how they made their money, right? The Bills are just forcing them because they're that good. They're not being overly aggressive and ending up with those takeaways. So I think all of these teams are able to force turnovers, but they are not dependent on them. And so that's also another reason why I think I like your list as well. I don't think that there's too much to quibble or quibble. What's the word? I don't know what it is. But
Quabble.
We'll go with that.
Yeah, I don't know. It sounds right.
We'll go with that. But yeah, I don't think that there's much to argue about. I think that these defenses are 100% going to be amongst the top of the league this year.
I will say your point about takeaways. It's actually not. I actually don't. This is kind of a hot take, but I actually don't think takeaways are a sign of necessarily good defense. Obviously, some good defenses get takeaways, and there is kind of a bit of a skill to it. But I think takeaways are more the offense screwing up than the defense kind of forcing them. In most cases, obviously that's not the case all the time, but quarterback's got to make a bad throw for an interception to happen. A running back needs to be carrying the ball out like a loaf of bread for him to fumble. So takeaway is obviously important, obviously huge, but I don't give defenses the necessarily a ton of credit for getting a lot of takeaways.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Also, while we're here, it wouldn't be football season, and it wouldn't be a show with you and I without me pushing some type of propaganda. And so, if we're talking about defenses, we need to watch out for the Philadelphia Eagles defense this year. Listen, the Eagles for years have had issues in the secondary. They went out. They got James Bradbury to play on the opposite side of Darius Slay. Then they went and they got Nakobe Dean in the third round. Great value. They got Jordan Davis. Fletcher Cox is coming back. Brandon Graham should be fairly healthy this season. The Eagles, I think, have the potential to be one of the best defenses in the league because last year they were one of the best teams against the run. You bolster the back end, you maybe get a little bit of improvement in the linebacker area. So there's high hopes and tall ceilings for the Philadelphia Eagles this year.
I agree with that. Eagles were 7th in opponent yards per play last year. Very solid defense, except for their pass rush. So that's where they need to fix things because 29th in sack percentage last year. So if they can add a little bit of a pass rush there, they're cooking.
Exactly. That's what Jordan Davis is for.
Perfect. Love it. All right, let's get into the game of the night. It is the Hall of Fame game. It is the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. The line, we've seen a little bit of line movement over the past couple of days. I think most places have the Raiders up to 2.5-point favorites. You might see maybe a 1.5-point spread somewhere. We're pretty close spread generally. Like I said earlier, Trevor Lawrence ruled out. Travis Etienne ruled out. Not too sure about some players on the Raiders. The total for the game, 30.5. Because unders have been hitting at an insane rate in these Hall of Fame games over the past 20 years. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. I'll see if I can find them, but crazy rate for the under. So now the total is all the way down to 30.5. So why don't we start off, Donnavan? Give me your best bet for tonight.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take the Raiders minus 2.5 in this game. I would say a week and a half ago, I wrote up over at BetSided a couple of trends to keep in mind whenever betting on the Hall of Fame game. And favorites are absolutely dominant in the last 2 decades. So since 2002, there's been 16 Hall of Fame games. Some games have been canceled. Favorites are 13-3 straight up, and then they are 10-4-2 against the spread in that span. Last year, the Steelers were 2-point favorites. They won 16-3. We're within a field goal, and so I'm going to take the Raiders against the spread. I don't think that this is going to be one of those games where it comes down to the wire. And I think I like the depth for the Raiders, specifically at running back. Josh Jacobs probably isn't going to play a lot. Kenyon Drake maybe won't play a lot. I like Zamir White a lot. He is plus 6,000 to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I like him as a dark horse because, listen, Josh Jacobs, even though that there's 2 running backs ahead of him, Josh Jacobs isn't the most efficient back in the world. And if Zamir White can maybe come in and turn those, 4.0, 4.1 yards per carry into 4.6, and he can be efficient, then I think he may have a chance to wedge his way in there. So I think that we see a lot of Zamir White tonight. And I think that the Raiders start off the Josh McDaniels era on a high note.
All right, so Donovan's laying the points for the Raiders, 2.5. I'm going to be looking at the total here, and I'm going to agree with, I forget who it was in the community pick, but I'm just going to take the over. Screw it. Let's root for points. Couple reasons why. Number one, I generally like to fade trends because I think people overreact to them. The under has cashed. I looked it up while you were talking. 7 of the last 9 Hall of Fame games. So in the last 9 games, the under is 7-2. Everyone knows it. Everyone's betting on it. And we have seen insane line movement. The over-under opened up at around 33. For it to move all the way down 3 points down to 30.5, I think the value is completely gone on the under. Now, if you bet on the under when it's at 33, probably good. But you're losing 3 points of value if you're taking the under at this point. So now with the 3-point movement down to 30.5, I think the smart play is to take the over despite the recent results in this game. Let's sit back. Let's celebrate that the NFL is back. Let's just root for some points. I don't care who scores. I guarantee I won't recognize the names of the people who scored tonight likely. So just give me the over. Let's root for some points.
I like that. I can get behind that. When the total was at when it was at 33, I was with you. I was going to take the under because even with the 7 out of the last 9 unders cashing in the last, and let me pull it up right here, since 2010, only 3 teams have scored more than 20 points, right? Only 3 teams. However, now that it's down to 30.5, you could have a 16-15 game and neither team even hits 17 and the over still hits. I think that there's not a lot of value, like you said, left. So I like the over. I like that pick.
There you go. So we agree on the over. Unfortunately, the community does not. The poll results have come in. Not only are they on the total, this might be the first poll. This might be the first poll in Daily Betslip history where the community is on an under. I'm sorry, community, but that makes me feel even better about my over bet because this lines right up. Daisy loves the over too. This lines up with my theory. Everyone knows about the trend, and when everyone knows about a trend, it's not worth backing anymore. Like I said, if it was still at 33, maybe I could justify the under, but 3 points of movement, I can't bet on the under. I'll take the over. So I'm fading you today, community. I apologize.
So am I. Okay. Well, I like that we're in agreement. Hopefully, it's weird. I feel like you and I see football differently. However, we come to a lot of the same conclusions, which is interesting.
Yes,
it's very interesting to see. But I like the fact that we're starting off the NFL season on the same wavelength.
All right, so someone will be happy tonight. It'll either be us or the community. But there is our show, ladies and gentlemen, my friends. Football is back.
Love it.
Any final comments before we wrap things up?
Listen, don't get too, I guess, deep into the Hall of Fame game betting. Just like relax, ease your way into NFL betting. It's going to be 272 games in about a month that you will be able to bet on. So this is not the one to put your 5-unit, 10-unit well play on.
Right. Yes, correct. And I will say one final point about the Hall of Fame game that we didn't bring up, and this is something you wrote about in your betting trends article that I tweeted from the BetSided account earlier today. If you're looking to live bet this game, only one team since the year 2008 has come back to win after trailing at halftime. So if it's one team maybe has a small lead and you want to ride that trend, maybe you double down on whatever team is winning at halftime. So there you go. That's our show. MLB, WNBA, CFL, and NFL Hall of Fame game. No show tomorrow, my friends. We're trying to enjoy the rest of our summer, and there's a lot of people on vacation tomorrow. So instead of making just Donnavan do the show by himself, because I think you're the only one working on the team tomorrow, we are just going to wait and come back next week, next Monday. I believe it is myself and Peter Dewey next Monday. I think yes, it is. So set an alarm on your phone for next Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern. But other than that, best of luck with all your picks tonight. Best of luck with all of your picks this weekend. Take care. Gambler bless. We'll talk to you next week. Oh, early show Monday, 4 p.m. Eastern. Thank you to producer Dwayne for reminding me. 4 p.m. on Monday. We'll talk to you then. Good luck. Have a good weekend, everyone. Goodbye.